Hello and welcome to Deep Impact, a proud member of the Duff Network where we dive deep into Wildbow's most besieged work 5 years on. Coming up next is Elliot Diebold.
And that was Ruben Morehouse.
That's me. And 12.1 begins with Blake finally reuniting with his delightful cabal, and they are not looking too hot. They are all pretty beaten up.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, Tiff is the most okay, which is not been the trend for the rest of the story.
Yeah, especially, wasn't she the most close to Paper Girl, which was presumably the thing that got to them so far?
No, Paper Girl specifically went after Alexis, I'm pretty sure.
Which would explain why Alexis is really not doing great.
Yes, and we weren't even more why later, but I'm just interested because Blake basically says Tiffany just seems like, quite nervous and tense, but that's like her general state of being these days, pretty much. So she's I feel like she just maxed out in levels of terror like a month ago, and so it's just like she's just like kind of coping. Also, there was a bit last chapter where we quickly talked about how she did the nice thing and gave Midge the coat. Yeah, and she kind of reminds me this is something people say about Blake a lot and how well he's dealing with this stuff. So again, I just feel like there's another weird line being drawn between Tiff and Blake.
Yeah. Tiffany is also a reflection of somebody else, but we just don't know. We've never met them, so although we know that Tiff, from what she said, has specialized in defensive stuff. So presumably she would be the most capable of keeping herself safe, potentially putting other people to the wolves. But whatever.
I don't think she'd do that.
not intentionally, but just if you're like a defensive practitioner, your stuff would be all about protecting yourself and redirecting attacks and stuff, right? I don't know.
Maybe.
So they all head downstairs, and the uninitiated Thorburns are kind of rightfully confused that Ava is now just on Team Thorburn.
Yeah, I mean, it hadn't occurred to me that was something they were going to have to explain to normal people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also, it's nice of Eva that she is, doing this for Andy, right? Like, if she was a complete psychopath, she would have left him. I know we're talking the bare minimum here, but I would like to hear you admit that she's doing something good.
Oh, no, she is, she clearly cares about Andy a lot. And she kind of likes to pretend that he's just there to rein her in, but clearly she is as reliant on him as he is reliant on her ass-kicking abilities, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they're a great team. Like, we've talked about this, as a duo, they really complement each other very well.
Yes, and to Ava's credit, she is self-aware enough to know that she does need Andy, which is the level of self-awareness that I don't necessarily think I would have ascribed to her.
I also note that you're sort of spinning this so that she's only doing this because she thinks she needs him, not because she cares about him. But,
yeah, damn
that's
right.
Fine.
No, Ava does, begrudgingly, I have to admit that Ava does kind of grow on me a bit over the course of this chapter, just because she's so useful. Like, she's so incredibly useful to the group. Yeah, it's hard not to appreciate that.
She's a real River Tam in this episode.
Yeah, sure. So here's an interesting thing. Alexis comes downstairs and basically is trying to explain to the Thorburns that they're still in deep shit here. And I don't know what it is. Maybe she has good karma, because every time somebody challenges her on the idea that they might not be in danger, basically the universe itself serves to emphasize her points. Somebody starts to make a point and then someone screams and they kind of lose the momentum halfway through, or just something that there's always something that seems to back up what she's saying, which I like. Although I don't know if it's karma, though, because she doesn't, based on how things go for her this chapter, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she's done anything to rack up bad karma yet. It could be that. I don't know if she's had enough time to rack up particularly good karma either. But you're right. There is a bit of a trend of people's arguments being disrupted by the shit going on outside. In a timing that is maybe a little bit suspicious. I mean, I just, for me, all this Alexa stuff, I felt so bad about the whole thing of how she's not letting Blake see her face. And he even tries to scope around to have a look at multiple times, and she sees him and hides it, and it's like, Well, I was so torn because I was like, at one thing, like the fact that she cares what he would think is like a positive sign about like how their relationship is going on her end, but then at the same time, like this is such a terrible thing. So it's like, I'm sort of like, oh look, this is, I'm trying to be glass half full and be like, look, there's a positive side to the fact that she's wanting to hide this, but I don't know if I can quite convince myself. I mean, even the fact she's like wearing the mirror, which is this great thing because she's keeping Blake close, and that's like such a good sign. But also means that he can't look at her. Like the imagery there is so spot on to exactly what's happening here. Like she's sort of keeping him close and trusting him, but also not wanting to reveal to him how bad she is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to interpret it because I guess you're right that it could be interpreted as her not wanting him to kind of think badly of her based on her physical appearance, I suppose. But that doesn't feel Alexis-y to me. She doesn't... I don't know. I kind of see it more as she doesn't want him to worry or be upset at her for being injured. Something like that. I don't know.
I think... God, I hate to repeat this mantra. I think it's both, because yes, like I agree that part of it is her not wanting Blake to fret because the stuff he said to her over the past handful of chapters. He absolutely will stop everything if Alexis is hurt, and she knows that.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, Blake has brought up multiple times in the story, like she has that smile that she does, and she hides her teeth. Was it? Because she doesn't like her teeth. So I actually think it is sort of in character for her to be a little bit insecure about that sort of stuff.
May I... potentially, it's... she's saving it. She's going to show Blake how fucked up she is at a point when she needs him to freak out and go all rage monster. Because that's basically what she did 2 or 3 chapters ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice positive spin on it. Like, I can get behind that, because it's...
Is it positive? It's a bit manipulative, I would say.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's not the worst outcome. I can get behind it.
Yeah. So the uninitiated Thorburns basically are struggling to wrap their head around how they're still in danger, especially because they thought Ava and Andy were the main threat, and they are now apparently neutralized. So it's hard for them to kind of comprehend, no, your life is still very, very much in danger.
Yeah, this was just the first wave. I mean, I love that Roxanne is almost kind of into it. Like, there's one beat where they're just kind of like, Roxanne is in awe at what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I think Peter was right.
Yeah, she was wasted.
Yeah, because like, I think if Rose Senior had seen this side to her, there might have been a slightly different arrangement in the order of the inheritance.
That's assuming that Rose Senior wants a psychopathic 12-year-old who can become a practitioner.
Well, she's not above carving out the bits she doesn't like. I think like Roxanne maybe represents a nice lump of clay to get started from.
Yeah, that's fair. That is a fair point. If you want a young Ava, you start with a Roxanne and you just trim away whatever.
Yeah.
There's this other line that I really like where Ellie is really basically being the thorn in everyone's side, and Peter mutters under his breath, "Why are you only so smart when it helps you be wrong?" Which is a very relatable way to deal with Ellie's frustration here.
Yeah, it's equal parts hilarious and like cathartic. I mean, there's another point where Blake is like, "Oh, Ellie's frustrating me despite the fact I'm not even in touch with my emotions," which is like hilarious again, and also is talking about a lot of stuff that we'll get into regarding Blake and his emotions this chapter.
Yes. So the Thorburns continue to bicker until their bickering is interrupted by one of the others outside accidentally setting off one of these bombs. And this blows a hole in the window, and from there they are able to breach the house, I suppose.
Yeah, but people are still bickering after this. Like, just everyone just listen to the people who know what are going on. Like, just stop being such difficult Thorburns.
Yeah, no, they really are. I mean, God, they really are Thorburns, aren't they? They've really earned the name Thorburn. So
and every time I see someone being such a Thorburn, I can't help but think, God, they're being such a Blake and Rose as well. Like, the more we see of the Thorburns, the more I'm just like, God, these two were just members of the family, weren't they?
Yeah, they're just such Thorburns, classic Thorburns. So yeah, we've kind of touched on my whole thoughts around Ava this chapter. Like, she's such a badass, and it kind of makes me feel that if we were introduced to her in an action chapter like this, instead of in a kind of more peaceful negotiation during Mags's interlude arc, I can actually see myself starting with a much more positive impression of her because she's so efficient and useful in this chapter.
Yeah, I mean, she absolutely kicks ass. Yeah.
Yeah. So some others start making their way in, including the Pizza Revenant, a clock boogeyman, and the Faceless Woman. They all kind of make their way inside and start fucking shit up. And Ava almost betrays the crew, but then Blake kind of threatens Andy, and she also just kind of seems to want to jump in and start kicking some ass. So she starts fighting the Pizza Revenant.
No, I really like that bit where she's just kind of standing there not doing anything, and Blake's like, Eva, you got to help us, and he's getting ready to prepare a threat, but she kind of just jumps at the first excuse to go to town on these others. She's great.
Yeah.
I mean, interestingly, the Revenant talks a bunch about how the bell has them all riled up. And it took me back to what you brought up in 11.x, how Green Eyes is all like, oh, I like the bell. I mean, it's interesting. I wonder if it's... because we know it's sort of spreading negative energy. I think that was mentioned when it first started. And I wonder if, like, you know, that just has an extra effect on, you know, our boogeymen and people from the abyss. Like, you know, it was sort of hitting Green Eyes. It seems like the boogeymen are the people who talk about the effects of the bell the most, with the exception of Blake, who doesn't seem to think it's having much of an impact on him. But he just talked about how out of touch with his emotions he is, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be willing to bet that it's having a lot more of an effect on him than he realizes.
Yeah, he's definitely been hearing it, like kind of, I would even say feeling it, to the extent that he kind of has noticed it. But you're right that he hasn't at least called out, oh, I feel like I'm being more aggressive or whatever.
No, he always brings up he can hear it, and it's usually when he's doing crazy stuff, or like it's always around big moments, but he never connects that. He never says, oh, the bell is tolling and I feel this. It's always the bell is tolling while he's doing something crazy.
Yeah. Do you think that it has impacted his, for example, the decision to kind of indoctrinate the Thorburns?
Yeah, I think it might have. I'd be interested to sort of really go back and read it with a more fine-tooth comb and see how much that does correlate with things like that. I do think, you know, every other boogeyman has sort of talked about how the bell gets them excited, and I think it's hard to believe that as Blake has restarted just jumping headfirst into fighting Behames and stuff, that the bell's not having an impact there.
Yeah, fair enough. And then basically the remainder of this chapter is just Ava beating the shit out of some others. Like, things go pretty badly for most of the characters involved at this point, except Ava just kind of beats the shit out of some others, and it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, she's very good at her job.
Yeah, definitely.
She can hunt them witches and others. I want to pull out one bit though from where Peter is fighting with the clockwork boogeyman. Because I didn't process this the first time I went through the chapter, and then the second time it sort of actually hit me what happens here, and I was like, oh my god. So Peter has sort of been slammed into a door, and he comes back off of it, and the doorknob had shattered on impact with his body. The resulting piece of the doorknob was now a prong of metal, crimson. The blood that had dripped off it in strings was thick, as if it wasn't just blood, but other bits clumped in there too. I could see the blood at Peter's shoulder where it had speared him. Fuck, Peter said, slumping to the ground beneath the door with a light splash. And now my pants are drenched. That's going to bug me all night. So, like, Peter has been speared by this doorknob, and clumps of him that aren't just blood is coming out, and he fucking has a little sarcastic comment ready to go. Like, he's a bit of a badass.
Yeah, it's interesting. He seems to soak up damage rather well for someone who has been described as quite cowardly, right?
Yeah.
So basically they're under attack by a lot of things. Ty seems to be dealing with some gargoyles that we see for like one line, but he's obviously got his own shit going on. Alexis...
Yeah, I really love that bit. Like the bit where we just suddenly cut to Ty and it's like he's crucifying some gargoyles.
Yeah, he's already killed like 2 gargoyles and there's more, and it's like, oh, this is a whole thing.
Yeah, and he's crucifying them and sticking them on the wall, and Blake's like, oh, I wonder what that's about, but he doesn't have time to do anything. It really paints that picture of like how much shit is going on. Like in case you forget that there's more going on than what Blake is dealing with at any one time. It's just this quick little window into how fucked this whole situation is.
Yeah, it's kind of messy, right? Tyler's dealing with the gargoyles. Alexis is unconscious. Peter's being chased by Clock King. Blake is basically trying to cut at others with the sword from inside these puddles of water, and Ava is trying to behead the pizza delivery guy. There's basically like 5 or 6 different things all happening at once, and you can't really track any of them super effectively.
Yeah, which is it's great and it's chaotic, and I love it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I really like about this chapter is they are holding they are holding out a little bit, right? Like they are seemingly fighting back the tide. Except Blake kind of gives us these little reality checks where he points out, oh, it's only been 20 minutes. There's still a shit ton of time left. And it reminds you, like, okay, they are taking some losses and it might feel like they're holding out, but that's only because it's been about 1/100th of the time that they actually need to hold out to survive.
Yeah, it really rams home this sense of hopelessness. Like, every time you start to think they're doing all right, Blake just reminds us that they're like half an hour into a 15-hour ordeal.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going super well for them. And of course, it can always get worse because the faceless woman eventually finally joins the fight, basically deciding that revealing herself to the innocent Thorburns is worth it just because she's so thirsty to get in on some of this action.
Well, her and the Revenant seem to have a little thing about they actually think maybe enough has been done that they won't get the full responsibility or something. Like they talk about taking a bet. I blame the bell.
No, fair. At this point, the innocent Thorburns are just complete liabilities, right? Which means any benefit they were getting has been completely erased. Not to mention, Alexis is unconscious. She's obviously not going to be of much help. And they seem to be pretty fucked.
Yeah, R.I.P. like hope.
Yep. Now, here's an interesting line. Alexis says to Blake, if I'm thinking maybe since I'm not at my best, I'm all hollowed out inside, you can take me for a ride? And Blake responds, I don't think I can wear the Alexis suit. I'm too solid. Doesn't feel like I can. Which, this is a possibility. Blake can possess people. Like, shit, that would be wild to see.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't even seem willing to try, and I guess because it's Alexis, that might be part of it, but he doesn't really feel like it's something he can do. But he doesn't give it the old college try. I think the big thing here is we touched on earlier Alexis sort of trusting Blake or everything, and this is like the real moment where you're like, okay, like Alexis definitely trusts Blake. Like this is actually kind of nice to hear that she's willing to let him possess her. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to trust another.
I needed this.
Yeah. It's a nice little boost of morale for Blake, I guess.
Yeah, and in fact, I wanted to pull out another small quote from after Blake. He powers her up with a bird spirit, since he can't possess her himself. And so after she gets the spirit, she goes, "You feel like this all the time, Blake?" Her voice was almost haunting, as if everything I'd heard for a long time had been muffled by the mirror, but her voice was as clear as the bell, resounding here. Feel like what? Empty, cold, broken, distant, like the worst night of waking up on the streets, when nothing's right and you're shivering and hurt and dirty and hungry, and you know it's going to be a long time before you can start to do anything about any of it, and you get this feeling in the pit of your stomach. And for me, this was even more valuable than that external look at Blake we got from Midge last chapter, like talking about other point of views we're getting at Blake. Blake is so numb to how shit he feels all the time now. And
he doesn't really he says, oh yeah, that's right, but that's kind of how I always feel. Like it's kind of a non-answer, right? Where he doesn't kind of call out, oh yeah, that is actually quite empty and shit.
Well, what he focuses on out of this is when they both sort of think that he feels incomplete, and he sort of starts to, tie that into all the tinfoiling about what's going on between him and Rose.
Yeah.
But he doesn't focus on the emotion of it, which is like, Alexis has just sort of spelled out to us that in case you had forgotten as well, Blake feels like garbage all the time now, and he's just become numb to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've already touched on multiple times this chapter where Blake or someone else mentions how numb Blake is to his emotions, and we've talked a lot the last 2 arcs about his human versus otherness, and this is like a really bad sign in that department. Like he seems so detached from what he's feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's just it's the continual question of how human actually is Blake.
Yes, yeah.
So Ava continues to kind of fight. She's struggling against both the pizza delivery guy and the faceless woman, but with a little help from Blake and a convenient TV to smash somebody into, she manages to take the pizza revenant out of the fight, and the faceless woman follows him outside.
I mean, Alexis helped too. She's the one who set the TV on fire.
Yeah, true. But it's interesting. So the pizza guy gets set on fire by being chucked into a TV, and he kind of dives outside to take care of it, I guess, to do a stop, drop, and roll. And the faceless woman, you know, she was clearly so excited to eat on some tasty snack humans, but even with that, she would rather kind of go and make sure that the pizza revenant is okay, which is weird, right? Like, we talked about this in the interlude last chapter about kind of the humanity of others, and that's what this feels like a continuation of. Like, the faceless woman would rather help her friend than eat some delicious humans.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised to see that her loyalty and self-control was strong enough that she was able to take him out like this, or go out with him like this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I still kind of like these two. I know we just had to fight them and whatnot, but I kind of hope Blake can get them on side in the future, because I just like these two.
Yeah, they're fun, aren't they? I do really love the faceless woman, and I feel like we haven't yet seen her used to her full potential,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, 40 minutes down, 14 hours to go, and the crew give up the bottom floor.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture how they can possibly get out of this. Like, I feel like we need a Deus Ex...
Barbiturium?
No, God, no.
That would be a Deus Ex, actually, yeah.
Maybe Paige and Isadora can show up. I mean, I was thinking before, like, as this chapter ends, and it's sort of like, okay, we're 40 minutes into the 14 hours, I was like, God, wouldn't it be funny if it's just this whole arc is just the siege of the house, and they barely get by, and then 12.x is, like, at the end, is just Rose coming home. Or it's just like...
Why is it all so flooded in here?
I don't know. I don't think they could possibly hold out for another 7 chapters, though, looking at how long Duress is. So I'm hoping... Like, Paige and Isadora are the only thing I can think of that would even remotely be, like, applicable to coming and saving them.
Yeah, so it took 40 minutes for the first floor, so presumably in, 2 hours, they'll be on the 4th floor with Barbiturium kind of huddling in the corner.
Yeah, sorry, you're right. Unless something like Isadora and Paige comes and saves them, the only other way that this ends without all our core heroes dying is somebody making a really bad fucking mistake.
Yeah. Definitely. Tiffany still is locked in the library right now, so we'll see. It's an action chapter. It kind of sets some stuff up. Obviously, things are going badly, but it was quite a fun chapter just watching Ava, kick some ass. Especially trying to behead Pizza Revenant. I found that very fun.
Yeah, just having a conversation with a guy as you're in the process of cutting through his throat is pretty crazy and fun. I mean, I agree. Like, this chapter was largely action, which is, a really fun way to open the arc. But I feel like really the thing that jumped out to me from this chapter was how many of those beats we hit about how out of touch Blake is with his emotions. And I can't imagine what room we're going to have to explore that with all the shit going on. But I'm excited to see where we head with that in the rest of the arc, because I assume hitting that so heavily in chapter 1 implies that it's going to be a bit of a theme for the arc.
Yeah, I suppose we'll have to wait and see next time on Deep In Pact. But before we go, let's dive into some comments that people left on this chapter 5 years ago today. See people's reactions to the start of Duress. And actually, there were a fair amount of comments that were theory crafting about how we know the hyena causes wounds that don't heal, right? And Blake kind of demonstrates that when he cuts up Clock King this chapter. But he also cuts the hamstrings of the faceless woman, and she's able to kind of recover from that. And there was a bunch of theories about this. I think it was Eccentric X salesmen who theorized that with her kind of ability to knit flesh, she could kind of paste over the wound, similar to how Blake would use glamour to cover up his own problems.
That makes sense.
Yeah, although actually, in a comment a little further down the page, Wildbow confirmed that she was actually just healing through the effect, which again indicates Faceless Woman has power that we just haven't seen her be able to use yet, and I really want to see it more. We saw her fuck up Ava's arm this chapter, and that was pretty fun, I suppose, depending on how much you hate Ava, but I want to see more of it.
Yeah, I agree. If she is just straight up healing through it, I mean, that implies that she's got some serious power under the hood. Like the idea that she's using her particular set of skills to kind of more cheaply heal around it probably makes more sense to me, given how much we've seen the hyena affect pretty powerful things. But who knows? Maybe I'm underestimating our Faceless Woman.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I've got a nice short one. I just pulled out a funny little comment from Pencil Monkey, who was talking about the Blake versus Revenant fight, and just referred to it as Pac's version of Plants versus Zombies, which I just laughed at.
Yeah, good stuff.
I mean, a lot of the other comments were just theorizing, which tends to happen at the start of these arcs. Everyone gets their theory engines turning, and I mean, there's not much for me to bring there because I can't speculate on any of it. Yeah. I can't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good joke, though, by Pencil Monkey. Top comment. Congratulations. And that brings us to the end of our discussion on Duress 12.1. Thanks for joining us, folks. If you have any thoughts on this chapter or your own little theories about where this chapter is going to go, make sure you leave them in our discussion thread, which will be linked down in the show notes down below there.
Yes, you can also hit us up on Twitter, @MediaMDPodcast.
You can also find more information on Deep In Pact, as well as all the other great shows on the Duff Media Network, at the Duff Media website, which is duffmedia.com. All the other great shows you can be found there, including my eternal favourite, What You Say, which is a great show, and I love it very much.
I have not seen more than various snippets of the OC over the years from living with people who watch it. I've never really seen much of the show, but I'm loving this podcast. Yeah. I'm loving learning about the show, not through watching it, but hearing Scott and Elise describe it.
Yes. I actually realized I was listening to I think episode 6 of the show, and I realized that I'd been confusing two characters the whole time in my head. There's a character called Jimmy, who is the father of one of the characters. And then I was confusing him with a character called Caleb, who comes in. And I'd realized that I'd completely mixed those two characters up the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, go listen to What You Say.
Yeah, it's classic.
It's the most underrated doof show by a long way, I reckon.
I agree. I genuinely, it's... You know how on your podcasting app, there's always a show that whenever you see they have a new episode, it's always the one you listen to first?
Yeah.
That's What You Say for me. I love it so much. It's great.
Yeah, me too.
If you want to support What You Say and all the other great shows on the Duff Media Network, we are a patron-supported network, which means that we only exist in the form that we exist in because of you folks listening to us. So to continue the great work that we're doing and donate to help keep us alive, you can go to patreon.com/duffmedia.
Yes, and not to put you under too much duress, but you should also Patreon Wildbow.
Very organic.
Patreon.com/Wildbow. Give him some money. He'll write the stories. Yeah, we love it.
Yeah. And that's it for us for this episode. But don't fret. We'll be back soon in 2 days for Duress 12.2. That's Friday the 11th.
So we'll see you then.
Bye.